He will. He will. Ladies and gentlemen, our special guests, would you please be seated? In a few moments, the National Malaya and Borneo Veterans Association with Thomas Carr College commemoration ceremony will get underway. My name is Peter Meehan, Shrine Governor, and at the Shrine we embrace the diversity of our community and acknowledge the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which we honour Australian Defence Force service and sacrifice. We pay respects to elders past and present. And on behalf of the trustees, a very warm welcome to the Shrine of Remembrance for this commemoration today. In a few moments, the ceremony will get underway. I'd like to welcome our audience watching via the live streaming service from the Shrine of Remembrance. And it's a www, so wherever you are on the face of this earth, welcome also to the Shrine of Remembrance, Melbourne, Australia. The ceremony is about to commence. Get right onto the mic.
Veterans, march on. Welcome everyone at this morning's remembrance ceremony. A special welcome to veterans, veterans' families, students and staff from Thomas Carr College, and everyone in attendance this morning. Please stand for the posting of the Shrine Guard. Shrine Guard, take post. Please be seated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I invite the choir from Thomas Carr College to play and sing the hymn Still by Reuben Morgan. Thank you, Thomas Carr College. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. John Wertheimer, OAM, of the Malayan and Borneo Veterans Association of Victoria. Thank you, John.
Good afternoon, veterans and partners, the many country representatives and other organisations, supporters, Thomas Carr College students, closer, students, principal and staff and visitors. Today it's my pleasure to speak at this Malay and Borneo Veterans Commemorative Service at the Shrine of Remembrance. It's a special day to remember those who have given their defence services to assist Malaya and Borneo. In this regard, I recall the countries Australia has served at some time between the 1950s and 2000s. They include Malaya, Borneo, Singapore, Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak, Brunei and East Timor. I've been with the Australian Engineers, the RAE, since 1958. We are generally referred to as sappers. During my time with the regular army, I was fortunate to be posted to RAE units which were destined to serve or were serving overseas. I was posted to 21 Construction Squadron here in Victoria at Puckapunyal in 1961. We went to Wewak, New Guinea in 1962 and 63 to improve local facilities for training in the jungle. On return to Australia, I was posted to 7 Field Squadron, which was based in Brisbane. But before I reached Brisbane, I attended my second try to complete the Royal Australian Engineers Junior Officer course. My completion was stopped twice when I was sent overseas. I was married in January 1964 in Melbourne, and we moved to Sydney. I was at the School of Military Engineering in Sydney, and Marcia, to whom I've married, worked at the New South Wales Liverpool Hospital. So we were married 2 or 3 months at that time. On the 17th of April 1964, one of the nurses inquired from Marcia whether I was in the Army Engineers. And while she wasn't too sure what I did, she said yes. Well, then the nurse said to Marcia, "Your husband's unit is on the radio with the Prime Minister, Menzies, and they are off to Borneo next week. I hope I see your husband, you see your husband, as part of the Australian assistance to Malaysia because of the Indonesian Confrontation." That is 60 years ago. And Indonesia was parachuting infantry onto the west coast of Malaysia and the Malaysian Borneo borders with Kalimantan. Australian participation was one of considerable Navy, Army and RAF support to Malaya and Borneo. Our main orders were to build a road in Keningau to Pensiangan on the Kalimantan border. At the time, there were virtually no roads to inland North Borneo, or then Sabah. Our other major task was at Kramat, 200 kilometres up the mighty Kinabatangan River, to build an airstrip. and we had Malaysian rangers as our protection. The jungle was the main country with many orang-utans and elephants. 7th Field Squadron was under command with a headquarters in Brunei. The brigadier was later the chief of the General Army of the British Army. We had radio communications from 51 Gurkha Brigade. Malaya and Borneo Vietnams were deployed in the 1950s during the communist uprising in Malaysia until, say, 1960. By the 1960s, the communist threat was controlled. The confrontation conflict was concluded in 1966, and the East Timor conflict was under control in the early 2000s. I returned to Brisbane in 1965 and was posted to 19 CRE works in Popadetta, near Kokoda in Papua. Our major task was to build a road from Kokoda to Popadetta. My final and next overseas posting was 17 Construction Squadron in South Vietnam in 1969 and 1970. There were about 6,000 Australian service people in Phuoc Tuy province, southeast from Saigon. The squadron today, total, was 400 sappers. That completes my talk today, and thank you for the opportunity as guest speaker in the 2024 Malaya and Borneo Veterans Communicative Commemorative Service. That was a bit of a mess up, wasn't it? Thank you.
Thank you, John. And of course today, your words help us remember the thousands who saw service across the campaigns in Malaya, and Borneo. It's time now to place wreaths at the base of the eternal flame. I call on the National and Victorian President of the Malaya Borneo Veterans Association, Mr. Owen Marshall. The President of the Returned and Services League of Australia, Victorian Branch, Dr. Robert Webster, OAM. Shrine Governor Squadron Leader Peter Meehan, OAM, retired. the Victorian Minister for Veterans, the Honourable Natalie Suleiman MP. The Deputy Consul General of the United Kingdom, Mrs. Una Lewis. Representing Melbourne Legacy, Legatee Mr. Peter Jenke. And from Thomas Carr College, Vice Principal Mr. Tom Bridges, and school captains Annika Silva and Ryan Latu. And finally, the Cultural Ambassador of Dayak International Organisation, the Goodwill Ambassador of Sabah Sarawak Rights Australia and New Zealand, and President of the Sabah Sarawak Borneo Natives Organisation of Australia, Miss Emily Elvra Edward. And from representing Wyndham City Council. Does anyone else wish to lay a wreath? Well, that concludes the wreath laying in honour of those left behind. I now invite Mr. Owen Marshall, Victorian and National President of the Malayan and Borneo Veterans Association of Australia, to recite the poem "Sleep Well, Ye Bonny Lads."
Sleep well, you bonny lads, wherever you may be, in a foreign land or in the deep blue sea. Sleep well, bonny lads, you stayed forever young. You died so others lived their lives free from bomb and gun. You left the shores of your lands, young lads still in their teens. You hadn't started living life, you hadn't filled your dreams. Britons, Commonwealth, Gurkha and police, you all served side by side. Foreign ground marked with your blood, where you fought and died. In far-off jungles green you fought for countries, king and queen. And for foreign people who hadn't known or seen. We ask now, was it worth it? Of course it was, you see. You helped to right a wrong and set a people free. So in this holy place of God, we honour you with pride. Sleep in peace. God rest your souls. This prayer goes out worldwide. And when the judgment comes, meet us with a smile. We'll take your hands, fall in line, and go the final mile. Sleep well, you bonny lads.
Yeah, thank you. That's appropriate. Thank you, Owen. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you are able, please stand. I invite Laurie Wilson, representing the National Malayan and Borneo Veterans Association of Australia, to recite the ode.
Thank you very much. Not very tall. The ode. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please remain standing for the Australian National Anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every state announce Australia fair. In joyful strains they'll let us sing, announce Australia fair. Beneath our radiant southern cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned above the lands. For those who come across the seas, we bow Westminster share. In chorus let us all concord to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. And for those who would wish to lay a poppy in the urn, please come forward. We have poppies, and you can place them in the poppy urn. With any sort of luck, they'll stay there. Anyone wish to grab a poppy? Shrine Guard, ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Shrine Guard, stand down. I now invite veterans, led by Owen Marshall, to form up behind the piper and the banners and prepare to march off to the Western Annex. And while that's happening, ladies and gentlemen, a huge thank you to Owen Marshall for his tireless leadership of the Malaya Borneo Veterans Association, and without his work, services such as this and the rest of the efforts of the association would not be done. So veterans, families, students, staff, and especially our special guests, thank you for your attendance today. You're invited to join the veterans and their families in the Shrine Western Annex for light refreshments, followed by the presentation of certificates of appreciation to the students by Owen Marshall. Please join the veterans. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Peter Meehan.